When a physical body returns to the earth, the soul embarks on a journey that transcends our material understanding. Yet, throughout countless spiritual traditions spanning millennia, teachings suggest that some souls maintain a connection to their earthly remains, a connection that can be influenced by the attention, or lack thereof, given to their resting place. The ancient Egyptians believed the soul consisted of multiple parts, the ba and ka, elements that required offerings and remembrance from the living to sustain their journey through the afterlife. In similar fashion, many Eastern philosophies speak of subtle energetic attachments that can temporarily bind a soul to physical locations, especially during the transitional period after physical death. When a grave sits unvisited, untended, with no flowers laid upon it and no prayers whispered above it, a peculiar energetic vacuum can form. This is not merely symbolic, but represents a genuine spiritual phenomenon. The soul, though existing beyond physical form, can experience what might be called a spiritual loneliness, a sense of being forgotten by the material world it once inhabited. Cayce, in his remarkable readings on the afterlife, spoke of how souls can become temporarily earthbound when strong emotional attachments remain unresolved. The absence of visitors to a gravesite doesn't necessarily trap a soul, but it can represent an unfulfilled energetic exchange that was part of that soul's expected transition. The soul itself doesn't need these visits in the way we might understand need, but rather the energetic acknowledgement serves as a form of spiritual communication that helps complete certain cycles of transition. Indigenous wisdom from cultures worldwide speaks of ancestors who remain close to the physical plane when ceremonial obligations go unfulfilled. The Lakota and many other Native American traditions emphasize the importance of remembrance ceremonies, not because the dead require them for happiness, but because these rituals complete an energetic circuit that allows for proper spiritual movement and evolution. This doesn't mean that every unvisited grave harbors a restless soul. The attachment to physical remembrance varies greatly depending on the soul's level of spiritual development and the circumstances of its transition. Some souls, having completed their physical lessons fully, release their attachment to earthly recognition immediately. Others, particularly those who departed suddenly or with unresolved emotional connections, may maintain a stronger energetic link to their physical remains and the memory they represent in the material world. What many spiritual traditions agree upon is that consciousness continues its journey regardless of earthly remembrance, but the quality and ease of that journey can be affected by the energetic patterns left behind. When no one visits a grave, the soul doesn't suffer in the human sense of suffering, but may experience a different kind of completion in its transitional journey, one that incorporates the lesson of earthly impermanence more deeply. The soul, in its wisdom, ultimately understands that physical remembrance is itself transitory. Even the most visited graves eventually sit silent as generations pass. This understanding becomes part of the soul's evolution, learning to release attachment to physical recognition and remembrance as it moves toward higher states of consciousness. The relationship between the living and those who have passed creates a subtle yet powerful energetic exchange that transcends physical boundaries. This connection, formed through grief, remembrance, and love, serves as a spiritual conduit that can significantly influence the soul's journey beyond physical existence. When we speak of the energy of grief and memory, we refer not to mere sentiment, but to actual vibrational forces that operate at levels our physical senses cannot fully perceive. When someone remembers the departed, visits their grave, or honors their memory through ritual or quiet reflection, they generate a specific frequency of energy. This energy, composed of thought, emotion, and intention, creates what many spiritual traditions describe as soul food for those who have crossed over. This is not metaphorical sustenance, but a genuine energetic nourishment that can assist the soul in its continued evolution and transition. The quality of this energy matters greatly. Grief filled with anger, bitterness, or an inability to accept the transition creates a heavier, more discordant energy that can actually tether a soul more strongly to the earthly plane. Conversely, remembrance filled with love, acceptance, and a willingness to release the departed toward their next phase of existence creates a luminous energy that supports the soul's journey forward. What happens then, when this energetic exchange is interrupted or never established? When no one visits a grave, offers prayers, or consciously remembers the departed, the soul must navigate its journey without this particular form of energetic assistance. This doesn't mean the soul is abandoned or lost. The universe in its infinite wisdom provides many paths for spiritual evolution, but it does create a distinct energetic environment for the soul's ongoing journey. Some spiritual teachings suggest that souls who receive little earthly remembrance may turn more completely toward other sources of spiritual light and guidance, without the sometimes complicated energies of human grief and attachment to navigate. These souls may find a more direct path toward cosmic consciousness. In this sense, being forgotten on earth can, for some souls, accelerate their spiritual evolution rather than impede it. The Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks of a 49-day transitional period, during which the consciousness of the departed is particularly receptive to the energetic influences of the living. During this time, the emotions, thoughts, and prayers directed toward the departed can either ease or complicate their journey. After this period, the soul becomes increasingly independent of earthly energetic exchanges, though subtle connections remain. Across various mystical traditions, there exists the understanding that souls eventually reach a state where they no longer require earthly remembrance to continue their evolution. They become more fully integrated with universal consciousness, drawing sustenance directly from divine sources rather than human memory. Yet, until this level of spiritual development is reached, the energy of remembrance can serve as an important transitional support. For those with spiritual sensitivity, visiting cemeteries often reveals a palpable difference in energy between graves that receive regular visitors and those long forgotten. The former often possess a certain lightness or sense of peace, while the latter may feel heavier or more static. This is not merely psychological projection, but a recognition of genuine energetic differences created by the presence or absence of human attention and intention. In the words of ancient wisdom keepers, the dead are never truly dead until they are forgotten. This speaks to the power of memory as a form of spiritual energy that sustains connections across dimensional boundaries. When that energy fades, the soul must complete its transformation using other resources, drawing more deeply from the infinite well of universal consciousness that exists beyond human remembrance. The practical spiritual teaching here is twofold. For the living, to understand the power of their remembrance as an energetic gift they can offer to those who have passed. And for all souls, to recognize that while human memory can provide beautiful support, the ultimate journey leads toward a consciousness that transcends the need for such remembrance. Within the vast framework of karmic understanding lies a profound spiritual teaching that many overlook. The experience of being forgotten after death may itself serve as an essential soul lesson. This concept challenges our human attachment to legacy and remembrance, revealing deeper truths about the spiritual journey that each soul must undertake. The karmic wheel turns not just through our actions in physical life, but continues its revolution through our soul's experience after the body's transition. When we examine this through the lens of spiritual wisdom, we discover that being forgotten, having no visitors to one's grave, no one to speak one's name, no ceremonies of remembrance, can represent a specifically designed karmic experience that serves the soul's evolution in ways our limited human perspective struggles to comprehend. In many spiritual traditions, attachment is recognized as one of the primary sources of suffering. This includes attachment to recognition, remembrance, and the preservation of one's earthly identity. The soul that remains bound to such concerns may find itself unable to progress toward higher states of consciousness. Therefore, the experience of being forgotten after death can serve as a powerful catalyst for releasing these final attachments to human recognition and worldly impact. Consider that souls who are deeply attached to fame, recognition, or being remembered during their physical lives may specifically choose the experience of an unvisited grave as part of their spiritual curriculum. This stark contrast becomes the exact medicine needed to release the ego's grip on identification with external validation. Through the silence of an untended grave, the soul learns the ultimate impermanence of all material recognition. The spiritual records accessed by mystics throughout the ages suggest that some of the most evolved souls have deliberately chosen obscurity after death as part of their final lessons in earthly detachment. Far from being a punishment or sign of spiritual abandonment, this forgetting becomes a sacred space in which the soul can more fully release its human story and embrace its universal nature. From the higher perspective of cosmic consciousness, being remembered or forgotten on Earth holds no inherent value judgment. It is merely an experience offering particular lessons, just as a spiritual seeker might choose a period of silent retreat to deepen their practice. A soul might choose the experience of being forgotten to deepen its dissolution into universal consciousness. The ancient Hermetic teaching, as above, so below, applies here in reverse. The apparent emptiness around a forgotten grave reflects the soul's journey toward emptying itself of attachment to human validation. This emptiness is not truly empty, but rather becomes filled with a more expansive spiritual awareness that transcends human memory. The Sanskrit concept of moksha, or liberation, speaks to the soul freeing itself from all earthly attachments and identifications. Being forgotten after death can accelerate this liberation process, offering the soul a clear path forward without the sometimes complicated energies of human grief and remembrance tethering it to its previous identity. For souls still working through certain karmic patterns, the experience of an unvisited grave may reflect unresolved lessons around recognition, validation, or the true meaning of legacy. Here, being forgotten isn't the lesson itself, but rather the classroom in which important spiritual realizations can unfold. Through this experience, the soul may come to understand that true immortality lies not in being remembered by humans, but in recognizing one's eternal nature within the cosmic tapestry. It would be a mistake to conclude that we should therefore not visit graves or remember those who have passed. For the living, these acts of remembrance offer important opportunities for processing grief, expressing gratitude, and maintaining spiritual connection. The point is rather that when remembrance doesn't occur, this too serves divine purpose within the soul's journey. Some of the most transformative soul growth occurs not through comfort, but through the dissolution of expected patterns. The soul that anticipated remembrance, but experiences forgetting encounters a powerful opportunity to surrender completely to divine flow rather than human recognition. In this surrender, a profound spiritual liberation can be found, one that might have been delayed by the continued energetic connections of remembrance. The wisdom traditions teach us that everything that occurs in the spiritual journey, including what happens after physical death, serves the soul's highest evolution. There are no mistakes or accidents in this process. Even the seemingly sad circumstance of a forgotten grave represents perfect spiritual orchestration when viewed from the perspective of cosmic consciousness. Throughout human history, cultures worldwide have developed intricate rituals to honor the departed, lighting candles, offering prayers, placing flowers on graves, maintaining tombstones, and conducting remembrance ceremonies. These practices are not mere cultural traditions, but represent sophisticated spiritual technologies designed to assist the soul's journey beyond physical existence. When these rituals remain unfulfilled, a specific spiritual dynamic unfolds that merits our deepest understanding. The absence of these rituals, the unlit candle, the unspoken prayer, the bare grave without flowers, creates what mystical traditions recognize as an energetic void. Nature abhors a vacuum, and this principle operates on spiritual planes just as it does in the physical world. When humans do not fill this space with conscious ritual, other energetic forces naturally flow in to complete the circuit. This is neither inherently positive nor negative, but creates a distinctly different environment for the soul's ongoing journey. The unfulfilled ritual represents both challenge and opportunity for the departed soul. Without the structured energetic pathways that human ritual provides, the soul must develop greater self-reliance in navigating its transition. Like a traveler without a map who must develop stronger navigational instincts, the soul without ritual support often develops a more direct relationship with universal consciousness, unmediated by human ceremonial structures. Some spiritual traditions suggest that souls whose graves receive no visitors may actually achieve a purer form of liberation precisely because they must turn fully toward divine light rather than human remembrance. In the absence of earthly attachment, they may more readily embrace what Buddhist teachings call the clear light of reality, the undistorted perception of ultimate truth that leads to complete liberation. In the extensive records left by Cayce, we find references to souls who, forgotten by earthly relations, developed accelerated spiritual awareness precisely because they were forced to release all attachment to human recognition. What appeared as neglect from the human perspective became, from the soul's vantage point, a direct path to spiritual freedom. The absence of ritual became itself a powerful catalyst for transcendence. This doesn't mean we should abandon our rituals of remembrance. For many souls, these practices provide important transitional support. Rather, it suggests that divine wisdom operates through all circumstances, even apparent neglect, to guide each soul toward its highest evolution in precisely the manner it most needs. The mystical understanding of death teaches that souls eventually reach what might be called a point of energetic completion with their physical remains and earthly identity. At this juncture, which varies greatly depending on the soul's development and karmic patterns, the soul naturally releases all connection to its gravesite, regardless of whether that site receives visitors or not. The difference lies not in whether this release occurs, but in how it unfolds and what lessons accompany it. For souls strongly identified with their human story, the gradual fading of remembrance, watching as visitors to their grave become fewer and eventually cease, can provide a gentle, incremental lesson in impermanence. For others, the immediate absence of ritual acknowledgement creates a more intense but potentially more direct path toward liberation from earthly attachment. Many mystical traditions speak of spiritual guides and higher beings who assist souls in their transition, regardless of human ritual participation. In the absence of earthly remembrance, these spiritual presences often become more prominently involved, ensuring that no soul is truly abandoned in its journey, even when forgotten by human memory. What humans fail to provide in terms of transitional support, the spiritual realms abundantly supply through other channels. The ultimate spiritual teaching regarding unvisited graves and unfulfilled rituals points toward a profound truth. The soul's journey is infinitely resilient and operates within a system of perfect spiritual orchestration. Whether remembered or forgotten, honored with elaborate ritual or left in silence, each soul receives exactly the transitional environment it needs for its next stage of evolution. As we contemplate our own mortality and the inevitable transition that awaits all who wear physical form, we might find comfort in knowing that even complete earthly forgetting cannot impede the soul's journey toward greater consciousness. The divine remembers what humans forget. The cosmic ledger accounts for every soul, named or unnamed, remembered or forgotten. In the final analysis, what happens to the soul when no one visits its grave is simply this: it continues its eternal journey, finding its way back to universal consciousness through whatever path best serves its unique spiritual development. The apparent limitation of being forgotten becomes, in the higher perspective, a specially designed doorway to liberation, one that some of the most advanced souls specifically choose for the unique spiritual gifts it offers. Whether through the supportive energy of loving remembrance or the stark clarity of being forgotten, each soul ultimately finds its way home to the infinite source from which it emerged, wiser for every experience, including the experience of an untended grave. If these spiritual insights have resonated with your soul's quest for understanding, I invite you to become part of our growing spiritual community. Subscribe now to receive more profound teachings that illuminate the mysteries beyond physical existence. Share your own experiences or questions in the comments below. Your perspective may be exactly what another seeker needs to hear on their path. What spiritual teachings have brought you comfort when contemplating the afterlife? Remember, by engaging with this content, you're not just expanding your own spiritual awareness, you're creating ripples of enlightenment that touch countless others. Subscribe, comment, and join us as we explore the eternal questions that unite all seeking souls.